Hello friends, welcome to the presentation. The title of my presentation is Concurrence of Big Data Analytics in Healthcare, a Systematic Review. Moving on to the first section, the author tries to provide the background regarding the big data and the terms used in the big data. Like author provided the sources of the healthcare data. Healthcare data is mostly unstructured or semi-structured, and it becomes very difficult to extract the information from raw data. To analyze the data and extract the information through such huge data bank, we need smart softwares. This is where the need of big data analytic tools arises. So likewise, author tries to explain the importance of each and every aspect of big data and the tools related to the big data, such as the cloud computing. Nowadays, it is becoming a major source of quality data. Data from wearable devices, data from all the other smart sources have been used in big data to generate the valuable insights and information. At the end of the introduction section, author explained the aim of the research, that is how big data analytics fits in healthcare environment to enhance its values. Moving on to the next section, that is the research objective. Author has provided four major research objectives. First one is to determine the different perspective of definition and concept of big data in healthcare. Here the author tried to extract the definition of big data being propounded by the different authors, which we'll discuss in the coming up slides. Second objective is to explore the sources of the big data big health data, like where we are getting the data in the current industries. Third one is to identify the big data analytical techniques and technologies. Fourth one is to illustrate the potential benefits and application. Fifth is to present the strategies for tackling the challenges of big data application within the healthcare. Moving on to the next slide, the literature review. In this, the author has kind of merged the methodological section into the literature review and the result section. So you might be seeing some of the methodological flow into the literature review and some of them in the results section as well. Author has used four major sources of the database, such as PubMed and ScienceDirect. Selection criteria ranges from 2013 to 18. All the articles pertaining to big data, healthcare, and analytics has been selected. The language is set to be English for the selection. As far as the study selection is concerned, author followed the flow where he provided the keyword search, followed by the title and abstract, and finally reviewing the article in detail. For the quality assessment, author has performed the manual selection process, as well as author tried to do the cross-referencing of the articles as well to maintain the quality. Moving on to the next slide, the results slide. Here, author has provided most of the insights of the studies. We'll be taking a little bit time in this particular section because this section talks about mostly the findings of the research. If you look at the results, there are four major sections which author discussed its results in. The first one is the concepts of big data and its definition perspective. If you remember, we talked the research objectives where we try to define one of these objective. Here, the author has extracted the definition in the different studies. For example, study by Raghupati and Raghupati define big data healthcare to refers to the electronic health data set so large and complex that they are difficult or impossible to manage with traditional software and or hardware, nor they be easily managed with traditional or common data management tools and methods. Whereas if you look the different other different author like Karen et al. They refer big data is a term used to describe data sets with such large volume or complexity that conventional data processing methods are not good enough to deal with them. So if you look all these definitions, mostly the authors were talking about big data as a volume of data being generated in high volume variety and in the different diversity. These data are not only being collected from just single sources, but ranging from single individual to a very large cohort. So it's completely diverse in form of the capturing of the data. Second one is the source of healthcare data. So if you look at this particular point, author has provided 3 or 4 major areas where the healthcare data has been generated. First is the clinical settings. If you look at the clinical setting, EMRs, electronic medical record, is one of the major source of the data. Second is the biomarkers. Third is diagnostic, like the diagnostic results like imaging results, X-rays, and CT, MRI, CT scans, etc. Other source or the other area of healthcare data generation is the claims, like the insurance providers, where you provide your medical, all the medical history and admission history and medications, etc., and they provide the claim. So this is one of the area where you can get the medical data as well. Others are the clinical research, where the clinical trials have been going on. So there are design parameters, there are compound size and endpoints where you get the data from the individual to a large cohort. Fourth one is the patient generated data. This data is mostly available on the social media and the wearable and sensors. So nowadays we have Apple Health, Apple wearable or Android wearable, where the data is generated real time, like you do the exercise and data is being generated. So these are the major sources of data which author discuss in the studies. Other than that, there are techniques and technologies. To name some very big like few techniques were data mining, where the data is mined to extract the information or the insights from the information. Another one is machine learning, where it is being used for the prediction of disease or diagnosis or detection of the disease. Another one is the natural language processing, where it's been implemented to improve the efficiency of care and control cost. Then we have data mining, cluster analysis, all different varieties of techniques and technologies present in big data. If you look at the application of the big data, there are various areas where the big data has been implemented. To name some of them are like to genomics, where we try to decode the genomes, where we try to search for the disease which are uncurable till now, like HIV and all the genetic diseases. It's been applied to the cardiovascular disease, diabetes, gynecology, oncology, all the various different disease sections. Other areas where it's been implemented is the precision medicine, where the big data has been used to identify the medicine being very precise as per the disease. Other areas are elderly care, and mental health. So these are some of the areas where it's being discussed. Uh, Moving on to the next slide, that is the discussion. In the discussion area, author has discussed regarding the research gaps. So if we talk about the research gap, the first one is the scope of the study. So author tried to point out the scope of the study. There's that many of the author has tried to narrow down the scope of the big data application, and they discussed about the application of big data, but the application of the big data in actual or the real world setting is still not been present over there. So the scope has to be enlarged, and the practical implementation part has to be included in the research gaps as well. The paucity of the quantitative result discuss about the quantitative results being generated. Third one is the research location. That is, most of the research done has been in the developed countries. So if the developing countries is also being taken, then other part of the big data can also be undertaken. Moving on further to the last one, that is my comment. I found this research to be very systematic. The aims and objectives were well defined. The gaps has been discussed in detail, and I would definitely recommend to all the research fellows who are doing research in the field of big data to have at least one time read. Thank you. Any questions?